Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It is May 25th, 2018, a Friday, and that means it's another wonderful day for basics, only this time we won't be playing games. Instead, we are going to be doing part 2 of our Invasion series. Now, I'm going to go ahead and jump right on into what I wanted to cover today. However, I do want to point out that at the end of the video, I'm probably going to be talking a little bit about a different series, part of this, that I'm going to be doing in the future, and some general thoughts of what I think is most important about invasions that I've kind of come across while prepping for this particular video. So if you're interested in like thoughts and rambling, it'll be at the end of the video. Alright, so right off the bat, you can see here I've got a Sabaki window up. Sabaki, in case you aren't aware, is the program I am using to review nowadays. I've kind of thrown Multigo out the window. I think I've mentioned this. Or Multi4Go? One of the two. And I've been using Sabaki instead. Really like it. You can customize, your theme, stones, board, all that good stuff. It's pretty fun. Now, this game, as you might notice by the people on the bottom of the board, this is actually a game that I played against my student, one of my students anyway, because it seems that while trying to get games for this particular video, a lot of them tended to be inspired from my lessons, because it's really hard to find an actual game being played that actually features invasions that makes sense. But more on that later. So, if you're not familiar with how I teach, I usually teach, as you can see, even, despite the fact that I'm playing a 2Q. I do this so I can set up various things on the board that I want to go over and kind of test my students on, like, are they able to get things right or not. And immediately we have an interesting position here. Well, not immediately, this is like, I don't know, a bunch of moves in. But you can see that I am in the process of trying to create an area that my student is going to want to reduce. So, in the game, after some probing over here that we don't have to worry about right now, my student decided to go after here. And the idea here is he's looking at the line between these two stones, and he decides my sector line is right here. Now, I would say that the sector line is right here, but this stone is being damaged by this one right here. So I can see why he decided that the sector line was here as opposed to here. It makes a lot of sense. You can also see that if we try to kill that stone, it kind of gets a little bit difficult because we are falling under attack too, right? It's not a clean kill. This is now on the edge of the black sector line, so maybe we can go up this way, try to cut it off, defend itself, and then we'll probably never get a chance to attack this one. So this stone right here doesn't seem like it's going to be in that much trouble. So in that regard, this is a pretty reasonable move. However, there are better moves that we can play here. There are deeper invasions that we can try to perform. And the question is, how do we know that we can perform those? Well, whenever we're trying to invade almost any position, you want to come across a few different ideas. One, where's my Aji? Where is that glorious Aji? Aji is great. We're always looking for Aji, right? That's how we decide. First step, where's our Aji? More forcing moves we can get utilizing Aji, more stones we can get in the area that we're interested in, the more we have a chance to actually live somewhere that our opponent doesn't really want us to. So, Aji. Now with Aji, we can get forcing moves to either get a base or make shape. Those two are kind of intertwined, right? Kind of point two kind of shares. Do we get base? Do we get shape? Hopefully one or the two. Something else that we can do is, can we escape? So Aji, so we can get free moves to get base or shape, and then come out if we can. Living locally isn't that bad, but being re-surrounded is a bit of a pain in the butt. So ideally we can like get in and hopefully come out. We'll have to wait and see. So there's a better move than what we have here. But the question is, can you see where our Aji is? Can you see? Can you see? Because there exists a few moves on this board that kind of allows us to do such things. But what are they? So if you were looking immediately at this edge of the board over here and said, you know what? There's forcing moves here, right? I could, like, drop down. Right? Because I'm threatening to connect up to the corner. So, you know, my opponent's obviously going to prevent that. And then I can go here, or I can go here. That's an interesting first idea, but it doesn't go quite where we want it to. Our opponent could say, I don't care, connect on up, and then that lovely little sector line gets reinforced. But it's not a bad idea, it's just we wouldn't want to drop down first, right? So instead you could say, all right, well, screw that. Let's just Atari. That right there is a forcing move. Because from here, we can slowly start looking for shape, but we have more forcing moves. We're not done yet. This is more of a come out move, right? We played a forcing move, now we're trying to get shape and come out. But there's more forcing moves that we can play here, so let's see what else we can get here. This one is a pretty good one. Now, I didn't mention the follow-up to the Atari because it's pretty friggin' obvious, right? You ignore the Atari, you take, and then you're pretty much alive right there. Here, I'll mention, if white plays away and black drops down, that's threatening to connect underneath, right? So suddenly, this entire group here is under attack. If your group is under attack, you probably don't have time to go back and try to counterattack, right? Because you're too busy trying not to get killed. At that point, I think you've done a pretty successful invasion. So the shoulder hit has to be responded to here because, you know, in basic series, we tend to respond to shoulder hits. That's not thunder I thought it was for a minute. So we tend to respond to shoulder hits, caps, and attachments. Here's a great example as to why we're going to do that. So we're going to respond to that, which means suddenly we've got 4 stones in our opponent's area. If our opponent ignores us, that turns into a base, and again, we've isolated this little group over here. That's kind of cool. So our opponent's probably going to do something else? Like what? Respond. Oops, need that stone back. Thank you very much. Gonna, like, respond here again? That means one, or not this one, this one's already there. But 1, 2, 3, we're already forced. So maybe we can play something else, a 4th move in here. Now we're starting to get shape, and we're very, very close to getting out. So what's our opponent going to do at that point? Stop us? That just gives us something to lean against, and then suddenly, if you think this group is going to die anytime soon, we've got way too many stones here. Because that became a forcing move, that became a forcing move, that threatened to get a base, right? What we're looking for, going after that base. That went ahead and got a base, got a base, got a base. And then got some shape while we're getting out, right? Force moves are all used up. We could play things like this, but again, it's that danger of what if your opponent doesn't respond like you think they are? Are you going to go back and cut now? No, you absolutely are not, right? So you must always, always, always be careful that you're not trying to commit to something. A move like this, for example, no longer says, I'm interested in living. This says, I'm interested in cutting these stones off. And your opponent could very well just say, not that. Have at it. And then the question is, oh, are those stones really worth cutting off? Is it something that we can really do? Got to be careful about that. Sometimes your forcing moves aren't forcing moves. So, yeah, not bad, not bad. Good first example of how we're going to use forcing moves, how we're using Aji, how we're evaluating if something is or is not forcing in order to get life so we can go ahead and live. Let's look at some more examples. All right, so here we have, as you can see in the bottom, I'm getting my students' games out of the way first. Swear to God, I'm not just plugging my lessons. We have students slightly stronger than last one. And the question here is, again, invasion, but I gotta be careful because I'm probably using this particular game for 2 different videos. I'm probably using it for this one right now, which I'm focusing on wide area invasion, which is, you know, a wide area that we have to invade. Because there's going to be another video devoted to invading like small areas, so that's going to be a thing too. And I think this video this game goes both for those ideas. So never mind how this game came out. Suffice to say, he's experimented with some of the new 3-3 stuff, which when you do, it means that you are going to give away influence, which means you need to have a pretty good idea usually of how you're going to be reducing things. And in this case, oops, did that one first, my bad. Yeah, I attached to a low stone and then built an area up. Now, I will go ahead and say, for sake of argument, that the first thing you could do is just not give that extra forcing move that immediately I have here to your opponent, right? That just helps me build. But, okay, he gave it to me, whatever, not the end of the world. And then I'm trying to build. I'm blatantly giving him Sente. I mean, you could try and do this too if you wanted to, and then play this one. And then it's a question of which way do you want me to build? Do you want me to build over in here? Do you want me to build over in here? This is just a huge wreck because I'm on this board now doing kind of double sector lines now, because we've got like this line going on here, but we also have this line going on here. And both of those would be too much to give to your opponent, right? So that's not what I did. I gave away Sente to see how is he going to start reducing me here. Or is he not going to? Is he going to look for a larger move? And that'd be fine too. Good way to reduce an invasion, prevent from happening. This is an example of something you can prevent from happening. You jump up here, your opponent can't keep you low. This sector line is never going to be a thing anymore. So inadvertently you just reduced your opponent before you even needed to, before it ever became a thing. But instead, he played over here, which I just backed off from, because I don't care, right? And then this became too much for him to handle, and these stones got killed. That was a little unfortunate. A little bit of panicking here, I think. Like, he saw that I was reinforcing, he immediately tried something about it, and then it just kind of spiraled. So instead of going this way, which just serves to, lock you out of the area you're trying to get into, what can we do now? What can we do? How do we handle this? White must be invaded. All of his things must suffer and burn. But how are we going to make him suffer and burn? How? It's a good question. How are we going to do that? Do we have forcing moves? First up, where are Adem forcing moves? We could go after this one, but we have to be careful, right? This is a common forcing move, but this is mostly just for, going under. If we want to really make sure we're in the middle and not letting our opponent, not let our opponent keep growing, we need something in the center. Not interested in going under. So how do we do that? Well, one really, really simple way is adhering to sector line. This is actually pretty reasonable case where you want to probably obey the sector line. And for that, we could do something as simple as we could shoulder hit. That'd be pretty good, right? But you could also try and do a forcing move here, which I kind of wanted to wait for the next video to mention. We could do this just as a threat, because these are a little bit more forcing now that we're threatening to connect up and really hurt our opponent. Like, even if you can't do R12, you can't see it, you don't know about it, whatever. You couldn't find the forcing move, whatever. The shoulder hit here is still pretty strong, even without it, because there's Aji here too. We're jumping into Aji. Now, if we want to play like one of those moves, for example, that we wanted to play earlier, it's a lot harder to lock him in, right? It's a lot harder to lock him in. If we want to poke here, suddenly this is an entire group, not just two stones. So that becomes cut off, which would be a pain. That becomes cut off again, which is a pain. We could connect, but again we get cut off, so that's a pain. So we can't play elsewhere. We have to defend because of the Aji up here. Like, we can identify, all right, I have a sector line here. Maybe you see the Aji here, maybe you don't, who cares? There's weaknesses in these stones because they're connected by a large knight. Large knights can be cut, but trying to cut it directly might just mean that they just defend themselves. So maybe we play on the sector line first. Now we have somewhere for our cut to go. We've got those wonderful things that we can attempt here, either the poke or the cut, whatever. That's probably going to get a defense. And if that's it gets a defense, then at that point, we can just make shape in the middle of the board, and suddenly, all that crap we were worried about disappears. We succeeded. We got our forcing moves enough to make something in the middle of the board, and then we're going to be happily alive. Awesome, right? Also, on this board, it's also kind of cool that this still exists, but don't worry about that. That's just food for thought for later. But there's another example in this game I wanted to go over, because since this went badly, you see that I got a lot of influence here, right? And things happen very, very not good. And then we played this move. Now, remember from the first video, I mentioned that you don't want to just drop a stone in the middle of nowhere. You want to try to play forcing moves unless you have a way to get a base. No matter how your opponent responds, you can come out, things like that. This can only come out. So this stone says, what I'm going to do is pretty simple. I'm going this way, right? Because we're not... Actually, worse than that. Can I just do this and then do this? It's cool. Worse than that. We're probably going this way. Because this stone, if it wants to connect up to friends, it's not going to go this way. Because those stones are kind of dead, right? And that's like a really strong wall here for white. So we're probably not going over there. Instead, we're probably going over here. Somewhere over here. So the question is, was this Sente? Does our opponent have no choice but to respond to let us to go there? And the answer to that is no, because this isn't a forcing move, because it's not an attachment, shoulder hit, cap, things like that. So what I did in the actual game is I played a little bit overplay a little bit. I should only play technically. I should only play here for the connection, but this highlights the danger very, very well. Because now, OMG, we are scrububbled. That's the sector line now. And that thing is way deep beyond it, right? So crash course how to handle this stone. I just jumped up, he tried to run, and then suddenly you can see the area being built, which is significant. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm attempting 5 lines of territory, which is probably going to be better than the 2 lines here. The 2 lines here and the 2 lines here, right? 2, 4, 6. Going to need each one of these sections of territory in order to equal what I'm getting in the middle. Plus we have dead stones. Plus we have Comey. Might have some territory down here. It's just too much. It just becomes too much. It's just too much. So instead of that, what we'd want to do is play a first move to see if we can't do something here. Maybe we could do something here. Maybe we play an attachment. Just backs off, I guess, theoretically. We can threaten to come on in, cut off the 1 stone, and then we're connected on up, right? Maybe you don't even connect up solidly right now, though I recommend it. Maybe you play another large move in the middle of the board. And just like that, we've reduced the problem area, because now when we play these moves again, the sector line doesn't really work anymore, does it? We're already there. We're already getting reduced. So this is a good invasion. You could also attach to this one. If you know the sequence. I'm not going over it, so if you don't, oh well. I'll be covering this in the 3rd video, I think. You can shoulder hit as well. This is a little bit sketchy, because if you actually do play this one, then... oops, we're under attack again. I mean, I'm not saying you can't play this way. You probably can, but it's a little riskier than playing something like this, because the follow-up here is like this at the very least, which, hurts this stone tremendously. But the shoulder hit, the not logical follow-up for the shoulder hit is to play this sequence, right? But if your opponent decides to get forcing moves here before playing it, it can be a little bit risky because we're still under attack. So the shoulder hit here, maybe not so much. Because once we realize if we go in this direction, that's not a threat anymore. Then we get attacked. Then we kind of X that off the board. But here, I mean, what is your opponent going to do? Play this way? Could. Absolutely could. Absolutely could. Excuse me. But this is by far much more easy to handle, right? Because not only can you still go this way, but you can... do I want to play that one or that one? We can still go after shape here, right? Tiger's mouth into something like this little guy, or shoulder it and try to connect. Probably not going to get that one, though. But either way, a lot simpler. Or you could decide, you know what? I'm not sure I can connect to that stone. I'm going to go ahead and jump. And then your opponent could say, well, then I'm going to kill your stone. And then you could just say, okay, that's fair enough. Long as I've got solid connection to the middle, long as this doesn't grow anymore, then, you know, I'm okay with that. Because this area is now kind of tiny, right? In comparison to what could have been. So that's not a bad way of reducing. Comparatively to this, where we just counterattack, for example, and then just start building crazy amounts of stuff down here. So that is a nice example number 2. Look for those forcing moves. Which one do we like, which one do we don't like, and use them to our advantage. Those free moves are always what we're looking for. Always what we're looking for. Alright, so here we see a KGS 2-dan versus a KGS 1-dan. 1-dan is black. And this game also featured some interesting little things about invasion. More importantly, it does reiterate a couple of things that we saw from last game. And keep in mind, this is a KGS 1-dan, right? Who people say, like, the KGS dans are stronger than the Taijam dans, the Foxy dans, WDUK dans, probably on par with the OGS ones, I guess. I don't know. So pretty strong, right? But we see this 1-dan do something very, very, very interesting. He decides he's really going to kill those 2 stones. Never mind what's going on the rest of the board. Them 2 stones are going to die. But you know what? It's kind of small, don't you think? In the beginning of the game, who cares about the sequence? Going after those 2 stones at the beginning of the game meant huge influence being built. And the stones aren't even dead yet. So right away, if we were black, reviewing our game, how did this framework turn out? Is because we played slow moves in the beginning of the game. That is how we got in this position, where we should be playing anything else, right? Just anything else. Anything, whatever it is. Who cares? Play. This might theoretically be a better move than trying to kill those 2 stones. It might be. It might be. Just because we're kind of sort of getting rid of this a little bit. It's sketchy. I don't like this move either, but it might be a better move than trying to kill the 2. But we have here, which means we got to reduce. The question is, where do we want to reduce? What's the threat here? What's the threat? What is white trying to cook up in this area? You might say, he's trying to grow an area really, really large. Yes. Where's that area, though? Is it up in here? Not really, right? Enclosure, extension. It's this area. This is the threat. What? Siri just thought I asked, hey Siri, is this the friend? And she was very confused. Apparently, she doesn't think I have friends. But you're all my friends, aren't you? So Siri, she doesn't know what she's talking about. Alright. So, we have a sector line here. So the first thing we might want to do is... I hate that. Get rid of that. Close that. There we go. First thing we might want to do is shoulder hit. Because if we can reduce this, that's not too terrible. This is a decent first idea. Like, we got the stones here, white can have a corner, let's focus on this, and then maybe, if we're lucky, we'll get a move like over in here to either keep trying to build here or take this for ourselves, whatever, right? So we're identifying the problem and then we're going to deal with it. He dove in, which isn't bad, but it is Chinese, right? And then he jumped out, and his opponent was just like, dude, that ain't where I'm trying to build, buddy. This is the area I'm trying to build. So the shoulder hit, the cap could be cool too. I think the cap into the approach is pretty fine. Whoops. If you know Joseki, for example, you might see something like this, and then we can just like make a shape here. But again, the problem is we're building, so even that I really don't like. And we just keep coming back to the shoulder hit over and over and over again. Or this shoulder hit over and over and over again. Like, we have to identify the problem and deal with it. So there we go. Problem being dealt with here. Problem not really being dealt with because we're not identifying the problem, the area we have to try to reduce. But okay, now he does and tries to come in. But again, this is saying, can I have your corner? And if your opponent just says, yeah, buddy, go ahead, why not? Knock yourself out. That's still a really, really huge area. We're still not dealing with the problem, right? So even his invasion move, which is an invasion, he's trying to reduce the corner, but that's not where the threat is. So you can see how this opponent, though he knows a couple common invasions, it seems like he's having trouble keeping his eye on the larger area of the board. And someone just followed me while I'm not streaming. Thank you for the follow. Who? Mariam Borka. Thank you very much for the follow. Much appreciated. You're now immortal. So yeah, you can see even one Dan kind of losing track. Or sorry, two Dan. One Dan. Sorry, he's the invader. Is kind of losing track on like what we need to do, what needs to get her done, right? So he plays here. Now he has to run. This is the last thing we ever want to do because, yeah, your opponent just capped you, and now he's building up to the 7th line. At that point, oops. This is just not going to... We're not going to die on the left-hand side, but oh my god, we're going to wish we did. At least then we could be like, well, darn, I'm dead. I guess I can resign now, right? But instead he's going to live, which means the game's going to continue. Still in as much pain as we're in right now. I see, lived easy. And now check out that sector line because we did it badly. That's now the sector line. He's trying to take 8th line fracking territory for himself. So the question is, can Black contend with that? No, of freaking course not. What I mean, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Congratulations. 12 plus stones, 12 plus points in the corner. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 6, and 18. All right, congratulations. Let's give you 30 points. Let's give you 40 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, frack. We're dead. That's way too much. We can't even begin to equal this, right? So that's no bueno. That just means we have to invade again, and each subsequent invasion makes it harder to do the next one. So here, we have to identify what the problem is. Very, 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 very important to identify what the problem is. The problem right now is not this corner. Granted, the problem was this crap over here, but the problem is not this corner. The problem is we don't want this area to become 8th line territory. So we should take steps, whatever they want, whatever you want to experiment with, to figure out what that's going to be and deal with it one thing at a time. So I think that's a really great example, not just showing a way to invade, but why some invasions are only going to hurt you if you can't identify what you're really trying to invade, what you're really trying to reduce, what's really important here. So I think that's good. I think that's good. I like it. Let's continue. All right, so we're stepping back a little bit. Going for a 10Q versus 11Q. And they're playing kind of small and doing whatever. Let's just ignore all of this. Who cares about any of it? I don't care about any of it. What I care about is here. Suddenly, we find ourselves with this area that we have to reduce. And black goes in for an invasion, which is good. But you'll notice he gets into a really weird position here, because he too is not really identifying the problem. Because if his opponent said, live in my corner, and then just tried to keep expanding, then we realize, darn it, we need to invade all over again. Instead, here, it's really important not just to know that you can invade, but to realize, we can kind of get out and make shape here as well. We're trying to reduce the outside. That is the important thing. Now, ideally, we would notice it here. Like even a move right here, for example, would be a lot better than actual game. But he committed, unfortunate, which resulted in an invasion that he wasn't really sure how to handle, which resulted in surrounds. So he invaded, but he let himself be lured into that corner instead. Like even playing a cap on this 4th line stone, believe it or not, is a better invasion. Even playing a cap on this 4th line stone is a better invasion, because from there, we can begin trying to make our stones come together. Maybe get an attack on here, but let's not worry about that right now. And what we're really trying to deal with, that outside whole middle falling to our opponent, is going to vanish. And if our opponent's not careful, then maybe we can go back and ask questions about like the corner and stuff. Like, what are you really doing here, right? Like, how much of this territory is actually yours? Things like that. But if we're locked in here, not so much. So always have your eye on what we're trying to do here, right? And that is just escape. If we're pincered here, that's the problem. We need to, again, just escape. Very rarely do we jump out from a pincered 4-4 point. You could also do this if you know Joseki. At 10Q, wasn't really sure what I'd recommend there. But if you do, you can play this one and then go back and cap. That would be fine too. This would be the variation that I would pick if it were up to me. If I was playing as black right now, I would go and take the corner in Sente and then just start trying to reduce lightly from the outside. You'll notice that I'm not going beyond the sector line while I'm doing this, right? Kind of staying at that edge. So not breaking them rules. But yeah, nice, quick, and easy. Unfortunately, 10Q not equipped to really handle a board like this, so he gets panicked, dives in all over the place, and doesn't get pretty. Not pretty, not pretty. Let's look at another game. So here you can see a 5Q and a 4Q playing. And now white has obviously an enclosure plus an extension. And the question then is how to reduce that. Black says dive into the middle, despite the fact that we don't really know how to get a base. Are we going to be able to come out? I don't know. Do you know? I don't know where this is going. So not forcing. Your opponent's going to immediately try to counterattack. Not good. So instead, if we were playing as black here, we would want to try to cap, or once again, shoulder hit. Even this cap is actually okay on this board, because keep in mind the huge wall black has. But yeah, a cap here, pretty good. A shoulder hit here, again, pretty reasonable, because now we're actually kind of reducing this area. And we're not going to be killed while doing it. I personally would favor this one, because I like how this area is nice and wide and open. So if our opponent goes over to here, maybe I could just even combine a couple of moves. See what I can get away with. Who knows? Maybe I can grow while I'm at it. But that forcing move into a forcing move, because White doesn't want this stone cut off, probably, and the corner surrounded. Very important to note where those forcing moves are. Now, granted, I guess on this board you could also just probably do something like this, because that wall is so frigging huge. But if you were going to invade, I would definitely look again for those shoulder hits, look for those caps, and see what we have available to us. See what we can do from there. Now, immediately you might be saying, these caps, these shoulder hits that we've been going over, dude, you're wasting your breath, okay? I'm a 5Q or a 4Q, a 3Q, a 1-don, whatever. I obviously know about caps and shoulder hits. And yet, finding someone who's actually getting that correctly in a game that I've been looking at is kind of very difficult to do. Case in point, 4Q versus 3Q. Should know about caps, shoulder hits, and not just throwing a stone in the middle of nowhere. However, once again, we get to a point where, alright, no problem, slight problem, who cares about how they're handling this, this is not our subject matter. Surrounded in Sentei, apparently, could develop, because we didn't come out, we locked ourselves into the corner, our opponent's beginning to grow. Bad. But our opponent went high, so he got greedy and tried to reduce it all, which resulted in this attachment, which immediately sprung to life a sector line. And that sector line is right here now. We have to be very, very careful, right? So black's trying not to die. This should be here instead, but whatever. Black's trying not to die. You can see the problem that's going on here. Black's now alive. White connects. I'll give him full props for connecting his groups up. I don't think he had to, since this area is strong enough as is, and I think he should be capping this, attaching to this, just making white feel, or black feel really, really dumb about half his moves. Like, yeah, keep responding to me. Keep responding to all of my moves. I'm taking the entire center and you can't do a frickin' thing about it. But okay. That's not what happened. And instead, boom! Played directly in the middle of nowhere. Can we get a base? No, can't get a base. Can we get out? I don't know. Where are we running to? Well, that's gonna die. Yeah, that's gonna die too. Nowhere to go that way. Can't go that way? Aha! This is the plan. We're gonna somehow go up and over white stone despite the fact that it's white's move right now. Because reasons. Not a very good plan, that one, huh? Alright. You're probably dead now. You can't run anymore. You've nowhere to go. Good job. You know what? Let's let it live. Shoot. I said live. Don't kill it. Haha, it's alive. The problem is, I see a wall. I still see the walls. Still seeing the walls here. We're going to have to reduce everything all over again, aren't we? Even if we live, we're not going to like it. The problem isn't the third line territory right here, so don't frickin' fight over it. The problem is the middle. So for the love of God, just cap the stone, right? Identify what the problem is. The problem isn't this. I've got a corner here, I got some extensions, got another corner up over here, man. I even got some side territory. Oh, it's sweet. So he can have a corner and extension. Who cares? Whatever. It's like almost the only thing he has. So the problem is the middle. So that's what we're going to freaking deal with. The middle. Nothing else. You could even play a little bit more, passive here, potentially. Because I think this area could still grow, I think this is actually still probably a reasonable game. Sabaki, is this a reasonable game? Black's up by 3. I'll say it's reasonable. It's saying this isn't territory. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. This is still open. This can be invaded still, but that's not this video. Yeah. So I think we could even play something like this and still be a-okay. But instead, when looking at this area, black said, I'm going to go into here. And now, unfortunately, white capped, which left a hole here that he can wiggle out of, and that gets awkward. Instead, we want to go and, when there's a wall here, just lean on it and drive that fracker right into it. Like, play as severe as you want with a wall this large. Who even friggin' cares? What's he gonna do? Atari? Okay, Atari. Yeah, Yeah, what's your next plan? Doesn't really work, right? When you got this much strength here, oh my god, you can go crazy and play moves you never even imagined just to kill something like this. Oh, is it fun? Not that I kill things in my games. But hopefully now you can see some little bit importance of shoulder hits, caps, things like that. Hopefully we've got a couple of good examples on how we want to focus on identifying the large area that we want to deal with and how dangerous it is when we can't. If we can't really keep our eye on the area we have to reduce, then things tend to happen. You saw examples where the areas kept growing because we didn't have the eye on what we needed to reduce, so it just kept going boop, and that was really bad. Saw some examples again as to how we don't invade, examples on how we're going to look at Aji, how that's important, how it kind of lends into shape. So I think this is a pretty good place to stop now. Next video, of course, won't be this week, or it will be next week rather, or maybe even the week after that. But next video we are going to have is going to be how to invade tight spaces, such as these things like that. You're going to notice that how to invade tight spaces is going to be almost the exact same in principle as how we invade wide area spaces. We're still going to be looking at things like how can we connect to places, where's the Aji, all that good stuff. But this area is more textbook, so it's a little bit more boring, so I'm saving that for the third one, I guess. Either way, hope you're enjoying the series so far. I'll be back next week with some more games against I don't really know who. Tell you what, leave a comment down below if you want to see me play against a rank in particular. Maybe I can find a way to do that for you. Alright, so as I mentioned at the start of the video, there are a few things I'd like to say while I was trying to get games for the this video's examples. A lot of the time, I kept looking at things such as diving in the middle of nowhere, just a whole slew of things, where people are just, they should never have created the area that had to be invaded to begin with. So, I mean, I don't know, I kind of want to do a video on just like what not to do, kind of like the first one that we went over, just expanded, keep putting up more variations, more examples from 10 kyus, 5 kyus, frigging Teutons, who just play the smallest crap in the history of ever, and how important it is to like focus on, no, stupid, that is really, really, really small. How do we reduce the area later? You notice that this is all garbage and we shouldn't have been there in the first place. Or you didn't really invade in a way that I would call sober, and so you wound up in a really, really bad position. I think that might be its own series, just like a huge what not to do thing. I don't know. I'm not really sure what to do with that right now. But something that I want to definitely touch on more about, because rather than like go over examples of how to invade, I really want to just go over example after example of how you should never have had to invade in the first place, and just like identify those small moves and stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong, learning how to invade is all well and good. But the direction of play mistakes that I'm seeing, the huge tactical errors that I'm seeing that just result in these positions just aren't equal. That they should be game ending. I mean, some of them are that bad. They're just horrible, horrible sequences that you wound up into, and I want to kind of talk about like why that is, but I'm not really sure how to structure that so to speak, I think it'd probably be more important, if anything, and more helpful, actually, in that regard, than actually learning how to invade. So I really, really want to do that, I think, is my next series. But I'll absolutely, continue with the one that I have right now. And I'll finish that one off, obviously, with probably the how to invade tight spaces, maybe how to answer someone, and then I think the fourth video I want to be how to handle some unreasonable invasions. Those things are a pain in the butt. They do them all the time, though, at almost all levels, though. Even like 5 and 6 dons will go ahead and do that. That's special. And then there's another video I want to do with the invasion series on on one of the best ways to respond to invasion sometime is to ignore it. Shh. I think that I want that to be its own video as well, because that's actually a really, really strong one. But I'm not sure if I want to introduce ignoring an invasion, because I know that's not DDK friendly. 5 kyus maybe hit or miss. That's more Don level idea in terms of responding to an invasion and just ignoring it. So I guess it's a bit more select. It probably is, good food for thought, I guess, for all ranks. But I do want that to be a video as well. I'm just not sure when I'm going to do that one. And there's some good pro games that I can use for that too, that have featured like the importance of, hey, I'm being invaded now. Well, frack you, buddy, and doing something else. That's a really, really good to do. Really, really good to know. And when it's like good to do that and when it's not good to do that, things like that. But yeah, those are some of my thoughts that I've been having right now, especially tonight. All today, I was looking for examples for tonight's video. And most of the time, yeah, they just fell into that category over and over and over again. Over and over and over again. So that's probably going to be its own series. That's going to be, I think. I can't see not making it its own series. So if that sounds like something that might be interested in, go ahead, let me know. Because your feedback is the only way I know these things. So making sure you comment down below is always good. And while I'm doing this rambling thing, once again, also make sure you hit the bell at the bottom next to the subscribe button, or wherever it is. I think it's around there. Make sure you're notified of when a video is uploaded from like whoever you're subscribed to, me, Haley, AlphaGo, PewDiePie, whatever, because YouTube's going through some really weird stuff right now. But I don't really want to ramble on about that. That right there is its own video. And this video is already getting way too long. So I'm going to go and start editing it while I watch some Detroit Become Human. I saw that has released, and people are already making content for that. Looks like a really great game. I'm going to go watch some of that while I'm doing all my edits. Hope you enjoyed the video today. And as always, see you next time, everyone. Take care.